Hello, and welcome to Socially Holistic Podcast. Socially Holistic helps coaches and holistic entrepreneurs and women in heart-centered businesses make sense of social media so they can build their own online network and get more clients. As a heart-centered business owner, you do amazing work. Holly's mission in life is to help you help more people. Help us help more women in business with a 5-star review of this podcast. Please leave one today over at iTunes. The more women who find out about this podcast, the more heart-centered businesses will be successful. Thank you.
Hello and welcome to the Socially Holistic Podcast, episode 30. This is your host, Holly Wharton, and I'm here with today's very special guest, Joanna DeVoe. Joanna is a kick-ass witch who puts the K in Magick. Welcome, Joanna.
Thank you, Holly.
That sounded so formal.
You're supposed to say it like this. Kick-ass witch putting the K in Magick.
See, that, very good. That's perfect. You know, and one of the things that I really love about your website is that your personality really shines through. It's not one of those websites where it's like cold and stuffy and professional. It is professional, but it's got so much personality in it. And I love it when I come across websites that really find a way to communicate what the person is really about, like the juice of their soul.
Oh, thank you. That's all it is, really. I wanted to do something that I'm such a creative person and I have so many different interests that I wanted to make myself the brand in a way and let people get to know me so that they could go on the various, adventures I'm sure to go on in the future. So that's why I did that.
And I think that's so important because especially when you have an online business and you're connecting with people all over the world and you're getting clients and working with people from everywhere, they're connecting with you and they're buying into you and your personality because they want to work with you and not someone else. So I think that's so important when someone actually manages to get that clear online.
Yeah, I agree.
So tell us a little bit about your background.
Well, I am a highly creative, self-taught, multi-passionate entrepreneur, to borrow a term from Marie Forleo. When she first put that out there, I'm sure a lot of other people too, we were like, oh, yay, that's me. And now we have a term for it. I have no formal training and of any kind, really, besides in the realm of creativity, dancing, and things like that, which really doesn't translate into business, except for maybe bringing your personality out more. And I've really just learned everything I know from books, which I gobble up as often as I can. I'm a crazy book nerd. And then life experience. I was actually raised in a very entrepreneurial family. My dad had a series of businesses when I was growing up. And he was constantly talking about being an entrepreneur. In fact, he actually encouraged us not to go to college, which may or may not have been a good idea because his take on it was, why work for someone else when you can work for yourself and get started on your own business, and I didn't go to college and look at me. So that was really in my head very early on. My mom was the cookie lady. She had a business largely because my dad was always going on about being an entrepreneur. So he kind of talked her into this, and she had a very successful business as the cookie lady, making gigantic cookies. And then my grandfather and uncle were also really entrepreneurial on my dad's side, and they all three together started a convenience market called Outpost Food Store when I was a teenager. So I was around that talk a lot growing up, and I'm sure that informed who I am. But it took me a long time to figure out a way to marry that kind of entrepreneurial education, for lack of a better word, with my artsy side. And honestly, my artsy side makes up like 90% of who I am. I am extremely artsy, very creative, and I do a variety of things, which really, I think, baffled my family and worried them. I was very different from them in that way. So I'm sure they've spent a lot of time worrying about me making my way in the world. But I've managed to do it. I'm definitely a late bloomer. It took me a long time to figure this all out.
I think a lot of us do. Either that or we get stuck in this horrible job that we hate, and at one point we just kind of throw it all away and figure out our lives.
Yeah. I've never been a fan of, I guess this goes back to my childhood maybe, of working for other people. I'm pretty bossy naturally. I don't like being bossed around very much. And I always having jobs that were to support my creative endeavors. So they would be either part-time jobs or just, low-level entry position jobs. And so that really frustrated me because I knew, I had ideas and I knew what I was talking about, but nobody's going to listen to me because I was, the assistant or whatever. So I would get very frustrated.
So it sounds like you've had a really, really unique and very lucky background to have all of those entrepreneurs in your family, and especially your dad teaching you not to go to college because, you shouldn't be working for someone else.
I don't know. I've had a really challenging life, I think. And I don't know. I don't know if college would have made it any better. But I've had a really hard run of it. I did, especially in my 20s. It took me to about my 30s before I started figuring myself out and getting on a roll with who I am and what I'm doing, which has taken me to where I am now. I'm 40, so it's been about a decade of feeling myself and, feeling like I know what I'm doing.
Ooh, I like that. So tell us a little bit about your business journey. How did you get to where you are today?
Okay, well, I have to talk a little bit about my personal life to give this a framework because it's great. It's really shaped who I am and why I'm in the business I'm in. I got married when I was 18 to my high school sweetheart. I do not recommend that to anyone. And we moved to Hollywood so I could go be a fabulous movie star because I thought that's what I was going to do. And I got pregnant the first month we were there. And I tried to do some acting jobs while I was pregnant, and I had morning sickness.
Oh, no.
And I was young. I was 19 years old. We got married at 18, and I was 19 when we finally moved to Hollywood to do this. And, fast forward a couple years, and my husband left around the time my son was diagnosed with autism. And he has pretty severe case of autism, and nobody really knew very much about it at the time. And I was broke as a joke, super young, trying to make it in Hollywood with this very unusual child and, health issues and no money. So that really shaped who I am. And it really was clear to me after a while of struggling and trying to do the acting thing and trying to be a good mom that I was going to have to choose. So I chose being a mom, but I've always loved Hollywood. Like I love movies like a freak as much as I love books. So I didn't want to give up on that. And I had always been a writer. So I basically taught myself how to write screenplays. And my first couple were really bad. I sold a couple, and they were never made into movies, but that was very encouraging that somebody actually gave me money for my words. And during that time, I did odd jobs. I worked for a couple years for a music management firm called Natural Energy Lab, and my last job was at the WB, Warner Brothers, worked for a TV show called What I Like About You, and I basically launched my first business from my desk there because I had so much downtime, and the people around me, they were playing video games and reading magazines and talking during their downtime, but I am not that kind of person. I'm extremely driven, and I just always have to be making something and doing something. And is this too long? I
feel this is fabulous.
Well, because I'm really kooky and creative, I took a Sharpie one day and drew on a leather bag I had, and I drew these crazy designs, and people kept stopping me, everywhere I went. Where did you get that bag? And it kind of snowballed while I was working on this TV show, and I started making these bags, and I started my company called Koshi. So these were Koshi bags. I got a bit of press. They put them on the TV show, and I wanted to incorporate my writing into it. So I made my first zine, I guess. It was like, I called it a coloring book for grown-ups. And it had my writing and my drawing. And then I eventually left that job and just went to do Koshi full time. And it was a lot of creative things, music, writing, art. And I was in a band called Obedient Waves. I still am, but we're off and on because we all are busy grown-ups. We're not like rubbery teenagers who can sleep on couches and tour the country, off a bag of like McDonald's. So we do it when we can. So I write and perform for that band. I did some ghostwriting and marketing for another rock band. Just a lot of random things. That's why I said that multi-passionate entrepreneur term really appealed to me. And then in early 2011, I started vlogging on YouTube, and I found a community that I liked, and I can't help it. I'm super into personal development. It's a huge hobby of mine. I've had a lot of problems in my past, so I've always leaned on that and my spirituality to see me through. And I'm very passionate about it. And when I started talking about that, I did a series called HiPPiE WiTCH that people really liked, that was really popular. And I started getting a lot of mail about that. And that was right around the time I was getting into Marie Forleo's work and people like that. And I understood that concept of do what you love, do what you would do for free, and make a business out of that. And I realized I loved Koshi. I loved the colors of it, the look of it, the feel of it, but it was missing something. It was kind of missing a soul. And so that's when I decided to marry what I was doing with the videos, because I found that I was good at that and people really responded to that. But keep the whole look and feel of Koshi and kind of smush the two together. And that is when KiCKASS WiTCH was born in March 5th, 2012. I launched. So it's almost 2 years now.
Fabulous. So why don't you define for our listeners, what is a KiCKASS WiTCH?
A KiCKASS WiTCH is, it's not someone who, I love the law of attraction. I teach the law of attraction. It's my favorite kind of magic, but it's not someone who spends all their time up in their head and sort of airy-fairy, like putting intentions out into the world and waiting for the universe to present things to them. It's a person who gets stuff done, who like takes action and meets the universe halfway. It's a person who has a dream in his or her heart, and mostly women, but a lot of men actually gravitate toward what I'm doing too, which surprised me. And then the theme is really creating the kick-ass life of your dreams. So I just like to help people tap into their own special magic and to believe in themselves. We lose that as we become adults and we get into the bump and grind of the daily life. And I like to get people back in touch with that.
I like that. And I think there's one point on your website where you say you kind of equate kicking ass to getting things done.
Yeah. Definitely. That's why I was saying it's not about like, I love the New Age movement and I'm definitely a part of it and have been for a couple of decades now. But I see a lot of people can't make their lives work and they have all these dreams and they do all these affirmations and they believe in the law of attraction and all this stuff. But they're missing the very real fact that we are on a physical planet. We live on a physical dimension, and I believe that's for a reason. We are here to get busy on this physical reality and to get things done and to participate in life in a really physical way. So I wanted to make something that was, kick ass. Excuse me, I have a cold. Sorry.
That's fine. I think that's really important. I think that's one of the things that a lot of people, I think especially women in holistic businesses and heart-centered businesses, often have that feeling that, they really, really want to help people and just, do good, but they don't feel right getting money for it. And
right.
I think that's just such a terrible thing, because obviously if you're not getting enough money to support yourself, then you really can't help all the people that you want to help.
Yeah. It's not even their fault, because there's a lot of information out there that says that it's not spiritual. And I definitely see the tide turning there and a lot of people like speaking out against that now. But there's still people that believe it's not spiritual to accept money for what you do. And I'm not one of those people. You have to survive. How can you be of service to other people if you're worried about where your next meal is going to come from?
Exactly. Exactly. So tell us a little bit about what you're doing today. You've got this Sad to Sexy program that sounds really spicy.
Yeah, well, again, that a lot of people, especially in like magical communities, they like to do spells for, perfect health and healing and things like that. And it's very esoteric. But a lot of us in America here, especially, we're living on something called the standard American diet, which is where the sad and sad to sexy comes from. And then sexy, I just like that word. I think it's fun, kind of like kick-ass. So I wanted to do something that was practical, and a lot of people that are into magic or into the New Age movement, they love nature, and that's such a part of who they are and what they do. So I saw a connection there and a way to teach that community how to connect to nature through food and how to get off all the fake chemical processed food-like products and to start eating real food straight from Mother Nature.
It's interesting. I haven't lived in the U.S. for a long time. And do you still live in California?
Yeah, I live in Los Angeles.
Yes. Produce in California, which is where I grew up, is so amazing. Just the fruit and the quality of the vegetables and everything is just so gorgeous and fresh. And yet, there's so much junk food. Every time I go back to the States and I go to a grocery store, I'm overwhelmed by the edible stuff that's not really food, but you can eat it. It's just boxes and packages and just so much crap and such variety of junk food.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's cheap because it's mass produced.
Yep.
And it's convenient. You can just like grab it off a shelf and stuff it in your face, in your car, on your way to wherever you're going. And also now they're the big they, corporations, food manufacturers. They're getting very clever with their wording.
Oh, yes. They're good at marketing.
Oh, yeah. They market things as being healthy. And so it's hard to tell the difference. So again, that's why I wanted to create a program. It's a 4-week program. It's tons of information. It's a real experience. But I wanted to create something that teaches people like, hey, they say that this is natural, but it's not. And here are the little words you can look for that give you clues and signs and to kind of guide them back to eating real food. And it's funny how far away we've gotten from that in such a short period of time relative to the history of how long we've been on this planet.
Exactly. It hasn't been that long at all. It's just, and it's shocking how addictive junk food can be.
It is, and it's designed to be that way.
So what are your tips for someone who wants to go from, the standard American diet to eating a more healthy type of foods? Because again, it is addictive, and there's just so much of it, and it's cheap and it's easy, and it's so difficult for so many people to make that shift.
Yeah, my tips, they're pretty cliche actually, but if you're just starting, I would say shop on the outside of your grocery store and not in the middle, because the outside is where the real food is, the produce and eggs and things like that. In the middle is usually where they keep a lot of the boxed, packaged, canned food. If you want to eat something like that, read the ingredient list. And if there's some big, long, crazy word you don't recognize, that's probably not the best idea. And I highly recommend people get off sugar.
Yes.
That could just change your life, just that, all by itself. But then it does require a little bit of effort to learn the different words for sugar because, again, with the marketing, they find a lot of different ways to package this, And agave is not a good substitute for sugar. It's marketed as a health food, but it's actually highly processed, very high up on the high glycemic index. And that's something that people in the health food world are starting to realize. But the trickle down hasn't even trickled down to like the restaurants and stuff that I go to here in LA that are so great. A lot of them still use agave and things like that. But if you want to go off sugar, also don't go on to like aspartame and fake sugars. Those are even worse. And don't even get me started on that. Stick to like some raw honey, some grade B maple syrup, maybe some stevia, things like that.
Okay, that's really good to know. And I use a lot of, well, I don't use a lot of honey, but when I do use sweetener, I do use honey at home,
Yeah.
just because it just, feels like something real and made by nature.
Definitely. And it has health properties. So, yeah, it might be like higher up on the glycemic index, but it also has, antioxidants in it and minerals and a lot of different health properties. So, I think it balances itself out. I wouldn't live on honey, but I think it's a lot better than sugar.
Yes. It's funny because I have a friend that studied nutrition, and I used to have this food blog where I was always, cooking with honey rather than sugar. And she kept saying, but, honey is exactly the same chemical formula, whatever, to sugar. It's exactly the same, blah, blah, blah. And I just kept thinking, my God, but honey is at least something that's, produced by nature, and sugar is just so refined and so processed.
Yeah, it really is. It's very crack-like.
Yes, exactly. It's very, very addictive, which I think is why it's so difficult for so many people to get off of sugar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they don't want you to. They put it in everything. You'd be so surprised.
I know. And I think that's another reason why if your food has labels on it, it's not, real food. It's not a whole food.
Mm-hmm.
Because of course your grapes and your vegetables and your tomatoes and things don't come with a warning label on it.
Yeah, well, they might be. I don't know. We've been trying to get GMO labeling going here.
Yes.
I know you guys don't even need that where you are. I'm so jealous of that.
I know.
It looks like actually it might not happen here. The powers that be, they have a lot of money and they keep sort of fixing the elections in a way that the wording is so confusing that people vote thinking they're voting for GMO labeling, but they're not.
Exactly. They're voting for the opposite.
Yeah, no, they use this weird backward talk and they language things in a way that's so confusing. And then they also do really compelling commercials about how GMOs are perfectly safe and natural, that GMA is trying to actually get GMOs labeled as being natural.
Oh, no.
So, yeah, and to outlaw labeling. So that would be really fun.
See, that's the thing that bothers me the most. At least if people can see what they're consuming, they can make the choice or not. But of course, that's not what the government wants.
We should be able to choose, for sure.
Exactly. So tell us a little more about what you do. Is Sad to Sexy the main program that you offer, or do you have other things?
No, it's actually not my most popular program because it's like a small group of people and I offer it through rounds usually, so people take it together as a class, although I'm done doing that. I'm in the middle of one right now. It's not too late to hop on if you want to.
Okay.
We're about a week into it. We will be this Friday, but then it's going to be automated. I want to automate that program because what most people are interested when they come to my site is like a psycho-spiritual approach to kicking ass. I talk about psychology. I talk about spirituality. I have a program called the Psycho-Spiritual Wheel of the Year that people can take as a year and a day program, or they can just take each module. It's about every 6 weeks, and it's about connecting with nature and how that is reflected in your own life on a psychological, spiritual level. That's why it's called psycho-spiritual. And yeah, and there's just the Wheel of the Year it's actually a pagan thing, but I thought it was something that everybody could tap into because it gets you in touch with the cycles of life and the cycles of nature and the cycles of yourself in a way that I feel everyone can benefit from. And there's different kinds of work that you can do that are appropriate to that season. So for like around Halloween, for example, we would do a lot of shadow work.
Oh.
And and right now we're doing something called spring transition, and we're going to be doing that, for the next month or so, and preparing ourselves, for whatever seeds we're going to plant come spring. And when I say that metaphorically, like whatever, it's about creating, a fabulous kick-ass 2014 and intentionally planting the seeds that you want to then hopefully bring to fruition and have a lovely harvest come fall.
I love that. And do you feel that by using these kind of seasonal themes in your own business, do you feel that that's helped you be more successful?
Well, that's a successful program and people seem to really enjoy it. And I like what's helped me a lot in doing KiCKASS WiTCH, because I'm such a sort of out there creative person, I don't like structure. I tend to rebel against it. Mm-hmm. But doing a weekly radio show, I have a weekly radio show called HiPPiE WiTCH, Magick for New Age, doing that, sending a newsletter out every 2 weeks, and now having a module that's due every 6 weeks. It's given me structure, and I have found a freedom in that. Mm-hmm. And yes, it's helped me a lot with my business and making money and showing up. My thing is to show up, keep showing up, keep showing up. Having a structure to that makes sure that you keep showing up.
Yes, definitely. Mm-hmm. Especially if you've sold people onto a program and you've got X amount of weeks that you've got to produce for them.
Yes, yeah.
And I think that's interesting what you say about keep showing up, because I think there's so many women that get into business, and of course it doesn't happen right away, and it's, a struggle, and the excitement wears off when they realize that it's a lot of work and it takes time, and they get to the point where they stop showing up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's the worst thing you can do. First you have to start with something that you deeply believe in, that you love, that you would do for free, because that's going to have to sustain you during that period of time when nobody gives, a hoot about what you're doing. And you could go through that period for a while. A lot of people I admire, I listen to a lot of different podcasts and webinars. You'll often hear people say, I didn't make a dime the first 2 years. And that's always put terror in my heart. But they have these big successful businesses now that I admire. And in a way, it was also comforting. I'm coming up on my 2-year anniversary, and I've done better than that, so I'm pretty proud of myself, and I've been able to keep growing and keep growing. But a lot of that was just, I love doing what I do, I completely believe in it, and then letting everybody else kind of catch up with me.
So what would you say are your tips for how to kick ass in business and just get the stuff done that you need to do, and how to stay on track and keep showing up for your business?
You have to have something to say. Mm-hmm. And it needs to come from an authentic, genuine place, so that who you are is actually reading to your audience. And the very best thing you can do, in my opinion, is to completely be yourself. And again, that's for 2 reasons. That's because there can only be one you, and there's so many people that have copycat businesses, and it gets really boring seeing yet another life coach, another Etsy store, another, metaphysical healing practitioner of some kind. They all kind of look alike, their websites look alike, they talk alike, they cover the same content again and again and again. Partly that's because there is certain subjects that you need to talk about if that's what you're presenting to the world. But the thing that makes somebody really pop out is when they let all of their quirky weirdness out. They fly their freak flag high, and they let the world see who they are.
Yes.
And then that's when it starts, the magic starts happening, and people start understanding who you are and clicking with who you are. It's what makes you unique, but it's also what helps people be able to tap into what you're doing. And don't be afraid to be polarizing, because that's a good sign, in my opinion. If some people hate you and some people love you, they're all having a reaction to you. You just need to focus on the people that love you and do more of that and be more of yourself. And that's going to, like I said, help you in the beginning, because you're doing you, you're being yourself. And you're never going to get sick of doing that because it's authentic. So that helps sustain you, because you're constantly interested in what you're doing. And then on the flip side, like I said, other people are interested in what you're doing too. In terms of showing up, you just have to have a commitment to doing that and believe in your message. If you feel a little wobbly on that, maybe entrepreneurship is not for you. I don't think it's for everyone.
I totally agree. Totally agree. It's not easy. And it's absolutely fabulous. It's a wonderful way of, making a living and helping people and having the lifestyle you want, but it's not for everybody.
No. And you also, typically, not always, but a lot of people have to go through getting a lot of gruff from their friends and family who are like, what do you do again? What is this? I don't even know what you do. Or can you even make money doing that? So it's really a spiritual practice in a way, because it's going to bring up all your stuff.
Yes.
And other people are going to reflect that back at you. You're going to like go into your inbox hoping there's a sale there, and there's not going to be a sale there. Putting yourself out publicly, whether you're doing a blog, a podcast, a video. I highly recommend videos and podcasts, by the way. Putting yourself out there, it really helps you work through your stuff.
Yes.
Fast. It's like the accelerated program to self-development.
Business is exactly that. I think business can be such a huge self-development journey.
Yeah.
Precisely because of what you just said, because it brings up so much of your stuff.
It really does.
And just puts it right there in front of your face, and you cannot get around it until you deal with it.
Yeah.
So, do you have any women business mentors? Are there any women in business who inspire you?
Definitely. I like men too a lot, by the way. But I've learned a lot from men. But I would say probably Oprah was the first person who I admired in that realm, and Tess McGill, who is a fictional character, but I'm obsessed with her, and I do think about her from time to time when I'm trying to do my business. She is Melanie Griffith's character in a movie called Working Girl that came in the 80s. Mm-hmm. And I tend to have this, like, what would Tess do thing that pulls me through a lot of tough situations. And then real people, I mentioned Marie Forleo, of course. Everyone loves her. Danielle LaPorte, Roeder, Natalie Sison, all those people that everybody likes so much because they have a lot to offer, and they've really changed the world of entrepreneurship online, I think, for a lot of women, which is why we have all of these people coming out with these businesses now, because we see the Danielle LaPortes and the Marie Forleos of the world, and we want to do that too. But something that I recently started in late January is a mastermind group that I do with two friends of mine who, we're all different, but we have similar takes on the world, and we're at similar points in our business. And I have to say, in the month and a half we've been working together, we've all made huge strides, and we are inspiring each other so much that I highly recommend everyone run out and start their own mastermind group with some trusted friends, or find one to participate in, because it's so great to be able to hold yourself accountable to a group of friends like that and to talk about money. I really wanted women that I could talk about money with, and, making sales and business strategy and things like that. And we do that, and it's been really helpful.
Sounds good. I think that's fantastic advice. And I think either getting a mastermind group or working with a coach or some kind of mentor or something is absolutely vital to being successful in your business.
Yeah.
Because you need that accountability. You need to have that date where you're going to meet up with that other person or group of people, and if you haven't done what you said you were going to do, you just know you've got to get it done.
Yeah. What's interesting is I did not want to start a coaching business. Mm-hmm. I don't know, that wasn't something I had in my mind when I started KiCKASS WiTCH, but I've gotten so many requests, people asking me, do you offer coaching? And I'm always like, no, I don't. But it kept happening so often that September of last year, I just was like, the next person that asks me that, I'm going to say yes. And just see what happens. And I did, and I've been working with her ever since. And I really like it. And it's basically just me sharing everything that, I already talk about in my programs, on HiPPiE WiTCH Radio, on my website, the same philosophies that I've learned and been working with for a couple of decades. So I'm thinking I might start opening that up. I've done a lot of just free kind of consulting on people's businesses. They ask me a lot of the things that we've talked about here today. They'll show me their business and what do you think? And I love to help people with branding and stuff. So I might offer some coaching, and I might also just be offering some sort of kick-ass consultation calls where I can help you put your branding and package, your ideas, and do something that's more personal and unique and stands out from the crowd together. So that's still in my brain, but things that I'm thinking of.
Well, I think when people really connect with someone, then, the next natural step is for them to ask, can I work one-on-one with you?
Yeah, I think too, sometimes you have to be open and let life guide you to where it is you're supposed to go next. So I listen and I'm like, really? This is what they want me to talk about? This, because I do a series called BizWitch. I make BizWitch videos sometimes, and I think that's what started it. But it surprised me. That's one of the most popular pages on my website, and it's definitely one of the things I get the most inquiries about. So I'm like, well, I guess life is sort of pointing me in a certain direction, and it's unexpected, but it's fun and I love it. So I'll probably explore that more this year.
I like that. I love seeing how people's businesses evolve over time.
Yeah. So that's another good tip. Listen to your audience, listen to your business, listen to what it's telling you. Don't get so married to what you think it's going to be in the beginning. I think it's good to have a vision and be committed to that, but I also think it's good to listen.
Yeah, I agree. You've got to go with what your tribe wants from you.
Yeah. Yeah, it reminds me a lot. There's an analogy that I've used for a couple different things, but it seems to apply to this too. The religion that I grew up in was very focused on prayer and praying and requesting and praying and praying, but they did not believe in meditation. Meditation was not a part of that, and it may have even been seen as a bad thing. I don't know, but I always thought that was so strange because you're talking to God, you're asking for all these things. When are you going to listen? When are you going to stop and listen? And I think that's kind of a cool analogy for your business too. You're putting all this stuff out there. You're talking, you're praying. You're wanting people to get your message, but you need to take the time to stop and listen to what's coming back at you too, and let that help shape the direction your business is going to go in.
I love that. Yeah, got to keep an open ear. So why don't you tell our listeners, how could they benefit from working with you, or if they wanted to learn a little bit more about you, where should they go?
They should go to you have to put that in, I'm sorry to tell you, www.joannadevoe.com. And that's the hub for everything I do. And I do a lot of different things. And they can get a lot of information from me for free. They can listen to my radio show for free. They can watch my videos for free and really get a sense of who I am and in what way, what capacity they would like to work with me if they want to.
Fabulous. Is there anything else you would like to add today?
Yeah, I think each person, everybody is special and has something amazing to offer the world. And whether you're going to be an entrepreneur or not, I think it's really important to learn how to tap into your own magic, to develop, a kick-ass sense of self-love, and to appreciate whatever gifts you've been given, and to know that those gifts were not given to you for you to have and to hold. They were given to you so that you can give them to the world. They're not just for you. They're gifts that need to be given out to the rest of the world. So figure out what those gifts are and give them in whatever capacity that feels comfortable for you.
I love that. And I think that's one of the things that I always talk to people who have issues with marketing. I always say to them, you've got these gifts, you want to help people, you want to get your stuff out in the world. You have the responsibility and the obligation to market yourself so that people can find out about you.
Absolutely.
You don't want to be the best kept secret in your industry or whatever it is that you do.
No, you're cheating people out of what it is you've got.
I love that. Thank you very much for sharing that. And thank you so much for being a guest today. I absolutely love talking with you, and I can't wait to share this with everyone. So thank you so much.
Yay, thank you for having me, Holly. It was awesome getting to talk to you.
Fabulous. And thank you to our listeners for listening today. And remember to visit sociallyholistic.com/SHP30 for the show notes on this episode.
Thanks so much for listening to the Socially Holistic Podcast with your host, Holly Wharton. Please help us help more women in business by giving us a 5-star review of this podcast. The more women who find out about this podcast, the more successful businesses there will be. So please leave a 5-star review today over at iTunes. Thank you.